I guess we're going to wait another minute or so for people to trickle in, grab their lunch, and sit down. Yeah. How's your day going, Lucia?
It has been very good. It's
Yeah.
been pretty low key, which is nice. The past 3 days have been a little nutty work wise. So today, being a little more low key and being able to concentrate on this has been good. How about
Good.
you?
Yeah, it's been, I've planned some surprise birthday parties this week, which is really hard to do when you're,
Are you letting out the cat out of the bag? Is anyone watching? I'm just
it's,
kidding.
it's already happened. It's already happened.
Okay, okay.
It was the first time attempting to do that when the person lives with you. So
Oh,
I was trying to be all sleuth about it. So
did
that
it
was,
come off? Did it work?
I surprised him. Yeah, I don't know how I was moving a tea kettle outside because it was at night, and we were gonna have tea while it was cold, and I moved our wine bottles out, to this courtyard area. I thought I would have definitely noticed if those were missing in the house, but
Yeah,
yeah. So yeah, it's a
that's
pretty
nice. So, how many people do you
calm
have?
now.
What'd y'all do?
We social distanced. There was
Right.
only maybe about 10 of us, and we were outside in a big courtyard. So
Yeah, fun.
that worked out. Yeah, it wasn't a big gathering. So
It was no, you know, I'll just keep my comments to myself. But yeah, it was a large gathering, right?
yeah, yeah.
That's fun.
Well, maybe another 30 seconds and we can go ahead and get started. I know we don't actually have a lot of time for our topic today, and there's a lot of, I know I sent a lot of questions your way, and I was doing some reading this week, and got lost in a CSR tunnel. So, hey, Chase, great. Well,
Yeah,
let's go ahead and get
let's,
started, Lisa. Yeah, we're
let's do
here.
it.
So today we're going to be talking about why being a socially responsible company is more important than ever. I'm Charlotte Ashford. I'm one of the strategic account executives at Jump Crew. And I'm joined by Lucia Fope, President and CEO of the Change Agency. So I just want to introduce her quickly. Lucia began her journey in CSR, or corporate social responsibility, by giving back to the community with CMT, where she oversaw the corporate social responsibility and government affairs department for 12 years. And she created CMT's nationally recognized call to volunteerism, CMT One Country, and promoting civic participation and serving to inspire CMT's 92 million viewers to lead change in their communities. And 1 year ago, Lucia launched the Change Agency.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah,
You could just say change agency, but yeah.
yeah. I want to emphasize that there's a T there in case anyone's doing the Googling. Uh,
Yes.
I'll put links to your website and some other documents you've shared with us in the comments here. So you launched that last year, and it's a consulting firm that guides entertainment and corporate clients in supporting the causes that and charities that they care about in measurable and impactful ways. And I know you've partnered you've done so much in Nashville, where we're both based, but also at the national level, partnering with Habitat for Humanity International and the American Red Cross's national office, Democracy Works, and a Fortune 400 healthcare company. And I know you've also recently done some work with Fiona Prine, following her husband's passing, John Prine's passing,
Yeah.
to help with voter absentee voting. So just
Yes.
maybe more people get out there and are able to vote, given everything that's going on with COVID. So
For sure. Well, thank you. I'm so excited to be here. This is my first live stream. I just see my friend Roy Levine is on, so that's fun to have a supporter in the crowd. Yeah, I'm so excited to talk to you about corporate social responsibility, and I'm really passionate about it. And I think organizations and businesses are where we can make some really important change, especially in these whatever times we want to call them, because I'm not going to use the word unprecedented
please don't
because
say
everyone's
unprecedented. I
saying
hear
it.
that.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, one of the reasons I'm excited to talk about this, I know a lot of our viewers are coming from the sales and marketing world and are not overseeing public affairs departments or CSR roles in their company. But I think it really has a broad relevancy. And reading about this, my hope is that we get to share some ways and explore some ways that CSR, corporate social responsibility, could have a positive impact on the community, but also just talk a little bit about the ties to employee retention, and promoting professional and personal growth within your company. And then also ways that honestly we can improve relationships with our customers, which is a big benefit here. And I think it's one we can talk about, that's another, important way to measure this and show the benefits of it. So just to get started, for those that are maybe unindoctrinated or newer to the term, what is corporate social responsibility? What does that encompass? That's your elevator pitch, if you will, of that.
Yes, and everything has to have an acronym, so it makes it easier than saying corporate social responsibility every time. But corporate social responsibility, or CSR, is a business model where a business commits themselves, a company commits to being socially responsible in all of its business practices and towards the way it engages with not only its employees and itself, but also the community in which it resides, through investing strategies and also through the way they deal with their customers. So it's just really looking through sort of all business practices through that lens. And so it's not like a separate, it has historically people thought of it as a separate thing, like this is an employee volunteering program, which can fall underneath that, but it needs to be adopted from the top down, if you will, as part of the culture of a business, and really integrated throughout sort of everything you do in the business. And also diversity, inclusion. It's, all of those things that are always been important, but have been even more heightened during this summer of social justice and pandemic times. So.
Yeah, and that's something that just talking to just people in our HR department and our training and development department and just my colleagues, I think something we all agree on is that moments of crisis like this with COVID that is impacting everybody, but also the social justice instances that happened this summer and are still happening. They in the tornado in Nashville in March. Something that even if it didn't touch your home personally, it touched us all, and they end up being these catalysts for these conversations. And you realize, wow, there's so many ways we can be engaged as a company at the employee level, or in different neighborhoods within our town. So I think that kind of leads me to my next question: is why is it actually more important now than ever? And I would say, thinking about that personally, it is because we are confronted with so much crisis, and it is a time to look beyond ourselves and not focus on our own suffering or troubles.
Right.
And so a great way to do that is with some kind of CSR initiative, or just looking outside of yourself. What are some reasons you think it's more important than ever?
Well, I think it's just becoming a business imperative. It was, a shiny object probably 15, even 20 years ago when I went out onto this journey. But I think the positives, because you always hear the negatives. So I want to say for you millennials and Gen Z are demanding it, which is what I embrace about so the upcoming generations, and probably a lot of your employees fall into those generations, if you will.
Yeah.
I think people, and also just the pandemic has heightened that we don't want to spend any time. Life is precious. And we don't want to spend any time doing something in an environment that we don't enjoy, and that is not bringing something positive to the world. So your business might not be specifically social impact, but the way in which you conduct it can make a difference. And having engagement, it increases employee retention. It reduces turnover by 57%.
Wow.
It's a business. It's not only good for the community, but it's also good for business. Yeah. And you might not be able to see it on the line item, but you will see it in your overall retention of employees and engagement with the company. And actually, the more opportunities you provide, the more leadership skills, et cetera, your employees, it's learning and development as well. It helps with that. So I just think everything, has been really ripped open over this past 8 months that we've been in, and studies have come out. So Porter Novelli just put out a study in June and another one in September that are saying 71% of Americans, especially around social justice, are demanding that companies engage into social justice and not shy away from it. That it's always been sort of tricky territory, and they're asking they need to do that. And another piece of that study is that 80% of Americans say companies need to recognize their role in systemic racial inequality. So that's big. It's big news. I mean, I think it's just demanded. Your customer base wants you to do this.
Yeah, I think, and that's actually something I definitely wanted to touch on. So we can just go there right now. Just, obviously it has an impact on employee retention. I'm getting some feedback on your side. Do you hear that?
No.
Okay, that's fine. We'll just roll with it.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. But the customer piece, right? Like, how does it impact our relationships with our customers? And I mean, I was looking around and I saw some of those numbers too, that it says, there was an SAP survey I saw that definitely linked your financial performance with your CSR work. And I saw another one that was from a consumer research company that just did a survey of only 420 people, but they saw that 75% of the consumers in that survey were going to shop at a company that supported ideas they agree with. And it said 71% of people think it's important for businesses to take a stance on movements. And that's especially true for Gen Xers, but even in millennials between 18 and 34.
Oh, the Gen Xers got a shout out that we never get that. So I really like to represent.
Exactly. And in millennials, it said it was around 54% of that group. So, that's something that surprised me, because I would think as a sales organization and marketing organization, what role do we have to play in coming out to speak about these issues? One of it is because it matters. It's important. It's important to the employees, but it also matters to our customers, actually, and it might influence their buying decisions. So that's something that I learned, and I learned from at Jump Crew when the things happened this summer. With racial injustice, we were planning to have we do something every year called the Jump Crew's Got Talent. And it's a big part of our culture. We've got a lot of talented people in the music industry too, actually on our I know. But also, people who ride horses and, can do water sports, a lot of really diverse pool of talent here. So we did that, and we did it virtually this year, which was really cool, because instead of our comedy acts and our musical acts, we did get to see people out in the wild doing some of those things on the lakes here and everything. But as part of that, our company did a match for the prizes to donate to the NAACP. We started, one of our employees started a diversity Slack group just to have more conversations about that. So that really surprised me, and I thought was really impressive at the grassroots level and leadership level. We wanted to take a stand on that, or at least have a conversation about it, right? For our employees and for our customers. What about in with some of the companies that you've served with the change agency or with CMT? Like, have you seen it impact relationship with customers, or customers that CMT had, or what are ways you've seen that impact?
Yeah. Oh, that is weird. That feedback, is it going still? Is it better now?
Not on me. I'll mute myself. So.
No, it was it sounded like a lion roar. I love technology. Anyway, no, CMT, it was great because we were using our reach to our viewers, right? So how do you do that? And we partnered. One of our campaigns was to go and commit to sort of the importance of education. And obviously, being country music television, we were all over the country, but a lot of our core viewers were in the smaller, more rural communities around the country. So Viacom, which is the parent company of CMT, partnered with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation sort of in 2009, 2010 time. And each of the all of the sister channels underneath Viacom's umbrella, from MTV, VH1, Nickelodeon, etc., had their own campaign targeting their viewership when viewing was not as cross-channel as it is today. And so CMT looked, and because a large portion of our viewers were in these rural communities, and we saw what a lot of people are talking about now is sort of needs for workforce development and retraining and job retraining in these small communities that are having shifting abilities in employment, so people who've been coal and mining forever and that option's not there anymore, or just even manufacturing or farming, things that you could come right out of high school and go straight and do that. Because of the advent of technology, there needs to be some post-secondary training. So we did these cool events that I'll try to be short about, but where we partner with community colleges through the that is a college, the Appalachian Regional Commission, which is part of the
a fact checker after this that'll be going just like after
yeah, I'm not with App State, with Appalachian Regional Commission, which is part of the U.S. government, and also American Association of Community Colleges, where we said we want to go to the most rural and distressed areas to try to use the cool factor of CMT, because Nashville, you can throw a stone and there's, we're not that cool here, but and especially in rural America, which has been really sort of, poo-pooed and downtrodden a little bit. And people who live in small towns want to stay in small towns, and that's what country music was built on. So we wanted to go there with a whole different perspective about it and say, hey, with these community colleges, the first one we went to was in Hazard, Kentucky, and they are former coal mining country, and they had about 8,000 coal miners without jobs, but they have an amazing community college there, but people weren't coming there because that was just not what you went straight out of school into the one major job there, which was coal mining. So it was to get people to think that they could go to school or go back to school, and really have used storytelling to do that. So we partnered with them. We had an event. We said, let's come to the CMT free show. We're 2 hours from any large venue when you could still go to those. We said, let's have an event. And it was also so this is interesting, I think, from a marketing perspective, since you're such a marketing and sales firm, is that community colleges are really good at a lot of things. And I hope I don't hurt any of their feelings, because they're not great at marketing because they have too much to do, right? And so we're trying to convince them that marketing is also recruiting. Those are interwoven. So we said, let's have an event. They're like, but it needs to be a workforce development event. And I was like, well, I have 3 kids and I'm balancing 2 jobs. That sounds like the worst thing possible to do with my time. Like, that doesn't seem compelling to me to get out of the house, right? But if you say CMT's in town, somebody's from Hazard, Kentucky. Woohoo!
Hey, Reed. Shout out to Reed.
Nice. But let's I just got distracted because I was so excited about Reese. But what was I just telling you?
He's also a musician. So
what'd you say?
He's also a musician.
Oh, he is?
One of the many talented people at Job Crew. So
awesome. So we said, let's say we're having an event. CMT's coming to town. We're celebrating what this town is about. We've worked with the workforce development people. We got them in the room. We reached out to 3 gentlemen who were former coal miners who'd retrained at the college, because we're like, we really need to show stories about how to do this. And someone like you, some lady from CMT has no street cred there, right? And we said, so we get them in the room and say, we're super excited for you to be here, but we're going to have a musician play, and we're going to actually feature some local music, because Hazard's got a great bluegrass community. But also, we want you to know about something really cool in your backyard. So we did videos of these 3 gentlemen and showed their stories. And then we asked them the permission to come on, their permission for us to ask them on stage, to ask them the questions that we thought people in the audience might not want to ask, because it might be embarrassing, or like, how did you do this? How did you pay your bills while you did this? Were you nervous to go back in the classroom at 50? And from those conversations, so from the storytelling piece, you could say, a gentleman said, I didn't realize there were government funds that would pay my mortgage for 18 months while I retrained, right? And another gentleman said, it was a lot harder to sit in a mine that had a small shaft, that I had to eat my lunch by holding my neck up so I wouldn't choke during the day, to like eat your lunch, versus going to sit in a classroom, right? Like, mining is hard work. Like, if you can do that, you can probably do anything, right? So you could feel that, and I am real sarcastic, as anybody who's on here, and I'm sort of a cynic in some ways, even though I have the feeling of the positive, but you could feel the air in the room change because people saw possibility. And
Yeah,
when
you
you
see
see
someone that looks
someone
like
like
them,
yourself,
right? Yeah.
yeah. And we, within 2 to 3 weeks, they'd filled all their career and technical classes with former coal miners. It
Wow.
was amazing. And we did that over 26 communities, rural communities. So that's a long winded story to sort of tell you about how we did it, but it was the right thing to do. And it didn't cost much money. I mean, my budget was teeny tiny, but it also did the point of marketing for CMT and some of these smaller communities that are big supporters of ours. And also, we got asked, why are we doing it? And we're like, because it's the right thing to do and we
Yeah.
care about you. So I think that's just a good example of being really integrated and smart about it. Hopefully it's smart, pat myself on the back, but versus just a transactional, like we're writing a check here or
Let's talk
there.
about that because CSR can look a lot of different ways, and I think one of the ways that's kind of like the default, just because you've got different resources, you have people that care about really different things. And as we saw, like I know at our last conversation about individual development plans, one of our previous LinkedIn lives, we were talking about what millennials, what this workforce is looking for, but one of those things is obviously like they want their company to care for and care about things they care about.
Right.
But what are so anyway, obviously like soup kitchens come to mind. I know that we do like we Jump Crew has some military brands, and so in the past we've done a lot of wounded warrior walks. We recently started participating in a Hire Our Heroes fellowship program where we get to hire veterans who are transitioning from um, their role in the military.
Military life, civilian life.
To civilian life, exactly. So those are things that I think some ways that come to mind on the Jump Crew side that have been a bit more organized from our leadership. But what are other ways it can look like? Is it going out to do like something with Habitat for Humanity, or like what does a sales organization have to offer that maybe is unique? We're starting to think about a lot of those things internally. And so, yeah, obviously you'd be a great person to
Well, I
think
think
about
it needs to
that.
be right. So a lot of companies sort of think through sort of what their culture is and what their like, and establish sort of like 3 pillars, sort of areas that you can go into, or
Mm-hmm.
and volunteer in. But my advice on that is that it needs to come from the employees, right? You need to sort of do things that engage them that make sense under an umbrella, but each of us has a different passion, right? So I think things like Habitat for Humanity builds are awesome, and I think that is a great way for team building. It's proven. I was on the Habitat board here, and they were our very first client, the International. So they're some of my faves. So there's ways to do things like that. There's also, and working with something like a Second Harvest, which works with, like you say, food pantries
Yeah, like
across.
Kelly just called out pop-up pantries also.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think those sort of just standard and traditional volunteering opportunities are great, but and I think you need to do them, and they're awesome. But then there's the other sort of strain of things that you can do with long-term partnerships based on sort of what your skill sets are. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, at CMT, we had a partnership with the Academies of Nashville, which are part of the public school system here in Nashville, where they do themed academies where they sort of have different business partners engage with that academy for high school students. We had the CMT Academy of Digital Design and Communication. Say that 3 times fast.
Yeah,
Um, but it was a really great way to partner. And so they were not only having, your career and technical classes, like so they had their standard English, math, science, all of those things. But if you were in an academy, first it made it a small learning community, but also ours was all about broadcasting or uh, design, those types of things, design work and audio. So we were able to pair all of our employees with that expertise in those areas with those students, right? So when they built out their own studio, we had our engineers come and help them actually rewire their auditorium, and because it was not doing well, or teaching the high school students how to do that. So I think long term things, or another example is sort of adopting a school and reading, so that you have a long term partnership and you can see sort of that over the years.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely like, what are your, like, thinking as an organization, what are your core competencies as a company, or what
Right.
individuals might have, and then how you can actually look to your community to share those or to pass that forward. I know we've talked, or pay that forward. I know we've talked about that here at Jump Through, like maybe doing some like interviewing coaching, and like helping people who are looking, to enter into sales or marketing. Just That's obviously something our HR department, we hire a lot of salespeople that are
Right.
really wonderful. So that's a skill that we have as a company. So can we lean into that, maybe in addition to having maybe some donations or matching? But
Sure. I
what
mean,
are
yeah, I mean, Fort Campbell's only, an hour, not even an hour away from here. And they, to your point with your hiring our heroes, sort of getting people sort that they will do those types of workshops where you can go and do mock interviews, et cetera, to prepare people to come into the civilian workforce, which is much different than being in the military where you're supposed to sort of you're not about self promotion in the military. You're about doing a job and following sort of the protocols there. And so it's a very different sort of shift in mindset. Another thing that you just made me think about when you're talking about skill sets is volunteering on nonprofit boards, because I think nonprofits are in need of sales and marketing expertise a lot of times, and may not have the bandwidth to sort of meet the salary range, right, that you would have in a corporate entity. But you can really help from the nonprofit side. And there's a couple great opportunities here in Nashville, and I'm sure there's some in other locations that are watching. But we have the Young Leaders Council here in Nashville that pairs people and sort of does board training. There's arts board matching here that if you're really specifically, the Arts and Business Council does. My friend Rory, who was on earlier, did that and was partnered up with an arts organization. So it feeds to that. And then, my company, we're trying to get more people to do internal nonprofit board training sort of within your company. So you're not just doing one person at a time, but you're able to, especially in these remote times we're in, to connect with other employees around a positive piece. So it, getting maybe 5 to 20, probably max, people in a room to do that type of training together. So you're getting to know people not in your specific divisions, et cetera. Maybe younger people are exposed more to some of your execs, so that you get to be in a room with them and learn at the same time. And these Zoom calls that we're on every single day, sort of doing it in a different way about purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are some great ideas. Just thinking about maybe if there isn't a nonprofit opening in your community, what can you do in the meantime to lift people up and develop them internally? So that's great. I want to open it up for questions. One last question I had for you before I do that. We're running up on time here, but we got to talk about it, because here we are. We're both calling from our homes. Jumper did recently reopen the office, and people are trickling in a distanced way. But does this change? When we're talking about being remote, like obviously there's still some opportunities to go outdoors together, to participate in a women's walk. I know you have one of those coming up, but are there a couple things, like one or two things people can think about, for a remote CSR policy or ideas?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you could work here, Hands on Nashville has opened up, and again, we're being Nashville specific, but New York Cares exist, et cetera. But there are a lot of organizations that will help you match with a corporate group event, because I think not being able to be in the same place with someone. I know you have, is it the culture crew at Jump Crew? Is that correct?
Yeah, we do. They're great.
So doing some of that sort of socially distance, hanging out with each other and doing things, but maybe putting a volunteer opportunity ahead of it. So
that's a great idea.
Yeah. So I think that's the way. And then these people are having to shift. Their boards still need help. I'm on the Second Harvest Food Bank board here in Nashville, and they are doing, actually, they're operating at a 40% more capacity every single day because we had tornado and pandemic and it's ongoing. But they're receiving donations because they're first needs, right? They're all donations sort of during times of crisis, which seem increasingly more with every hurricane and fire, go
Yep.
to first responders and to basic needs. And so the arts organizations right now are really struggling. So I think bright minds from the millennials and the Gen Zers who've operated unlike me as a Gen Xer, virtually helping brainstorm ways to engage when they can't have in-person activities, whether it's, a symphony or the ballet, sort of they're needing bright minds to help them think about how to use that horrible word pivot to sort of address sort of ways to think sort of, again, another one outside the box.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, that's what we're all creative thinking, right? So
Right.
that's great. So getting people to work together to think about those things. So I want to open it up because we've been dominating the discussion. We've had some great comments throughout, but are there any questions from the audience? I know, just in case, I do have, just want to see if there's anything, or if there's any questions you have about Jump Crew, like what we're doing or what, I don't know, to our community for us to think about.
Well, I mean, while we're, if people are trying to submit questions, like we were talking about, maybe one of the things that we talk about is sort of some immediate takeaways and things that companies can do pretty easily
Yeah.
to get this started. Because a comprehensive plan, and one of your questions that we didn't get to was, how does this work? If you need the leadership to really champion it for actually to work, and so there needs to be that belief there.
Mm.
And the proof of concept that it is actually helpful for business. But the other is sort of some immediate things that people can do. Is a majority of companies at least provide matching gifts, so that if you do make it, and that you can tap it and say up to $500 per employee, or even less than that, up to 250, that they match the gift to the nonprofit that you care about. That's a really easy one, and that engenders sort of even more sort of respect and admiration for a company and attachment to the
Yeah.
company for the employees, and does well there. Other things that are easy to do coming up are, I don't know if y'all noticed, but we're having an election coming up soon, and there's a real huge need for poll workers all over the U.S. And so
That's good.
companies are letting their employees have actual election day off, so you could vote early. They need healthy young people to do this, so uh, giving the day off for people to go and participate in the electoral process or help be poll workers, those sorts of things, and just thinking about. Or rewarding people for volunteering, giving a day off if people prove that they do volunteering.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I was thinking too of like time off, you get maybe 1 or 2 days off a year to go volunteer, no questions asked, or something
Right,
like maybe submit something afterwards. But I know a
right,
marketing department would be happy about that. So
yeah,
marketing and CSR seem to work really closely together.
yeah.
So we had a question from Rory and from Colleen. So uh, oh, I cannot see Rory's question. I'll just see Colleen's quickly here first. So yeah, how can employees, especially lower level millennials in an organization, help drive towards creating a CSR program? So more of a grassroots approach. How could you get that conversation started?
I think you sort of get your like-minded friends, coworkers together, and sort of really brainstorm, and the research is really easy to find out there, that it's you can show to your leadership, and also show that it engenders more respect for the company if they do that sort of thing. So a lot of CSR starts not with an employee doing it, but a group of volunteers internally sort of driving that, and thinking about that, and making the case to your leadership that these are things that we feel are important, and we want the company to do, and to help us with that, because it doesn't take a lot of money necessarily to start, and also the money you allocate is from a budget item, is incremental to the larger gain you're getting as a company by doing it. And then I think Rory was his question. I know
It got buried. I don't know why, but it was asking something about, given sort of the divisive nature of some of these. Are there certain categories I think that are maybe
Off
better,
limits.
yeah, off limits, or maybe that we should require more focus? I couldn't see the end of that question, but I think
Right.
it's
I
around
think
that.
that's where we were. Well, I think that's the other thing, is you really need to vet who you're partnering with. Even some national nonprofits, you've got to really do the work to see, sort of that they're above board. There's some nonprofits that have taken some stumbles and gotten themselves better, but just like anybody you would partner in business with, you want to make sure you're partnering with someone who, the money is going to the programs that they say they serve, et cetera. Um, and then, it's your company's risk factor, right? So, but according to that research, people are wanting you to take a stand on social justice and racial injustice. So I think figuring out the way to do that in a way that is, you know, uh, genuine, and intentional is smart. And I think just even starting by your internal practices and looking at the people around the room and the people in leadership and seeing how, you can get a more diverse group of people in that room with different perspectives is better for business and also better for you long term.
Yeah, that's a great question. And actually, it ties into what Reese is just asking here. Obviously, um, you know, he said he's seen philanthropic messages from companies get lost in the medium, or their message in general. And when companies, employees turn out for an event to volunteer help, it might be largely skewed to one generation. I mean, are there ways to be more organized with this, with your message, or with making sure it's not just maybe one small group, that's going out there who look very homogenous, perhaps, or the same age, or maybe,
Right.
what are some tips for that?
This is the challenge of any sort of engagement with. I always joked at CMT there was like the same 10 people who would like lead the charge, right? And so,
We need
um,
those people, but yeah,
we need
exactly.
them. I think to that point, Reese, is that what I, going back to what I said earlier, is really sort of reaching out to your employees and seeing what connects and resonates with them. And there's some things, maybe people are, our IT team or people who, at CMT, I'm using this, or people who are editors couldn't leave the premises to go volunteer. So thinking about things that, maybe if you can't do a walk, like thinking about people with disabilities or that sort of thing, can you bring it in house, right? So we did care packages for the USO and brought them inside. Valentine's Day, one of the favorite things our employees did was we wrote Valentine cards to, seniors and assisted living
Oh, I love that.
units,
Yeah.
and then delivered them over. And people actually gave money to, you buy a rose, and so you get one rose to give to somebody like in the company just to be sweet, and then to the senior. So those were all delivered to them on Valentine's Day. So I think you've got to have a myriad of different types of opportunities because habitat builds. Not everybody wants to get out in the sun and
Yeah.
hammer a
Or you got
nail.
children at home and you can't find someone to come watch them,
Exactly.
especially now.
Exactly.
So
Yes.
maybe having like a category of things you're going to drive towards as a company, and then under that umbrella, these are the many different ways we're going to try and work on that as a company. And maybe it's through donations, through your time, through maybe you're a coder and you can help build out or improve some, user experience on that nonprofit site, or
Exactly.
actually getting your hands dirty. So
They need it.
I think we need to leave it there. Actually, we're a little over time already, but thanks for all of those tips, Lucia. I know I learned some things reading for this and things we were doing at Jump Crew. I learned some things from you today. So, but obviously we just barely scratched the surface.
It was
So
so fun. It went so fast. So,
yes,
that's a sign you had a good time. So hopefully everybody else did too. And I just really appreciate Jump Crew, allowing me to talk about this because I really love this work. And, we, as I said, I think we've got to really embrace it and do more than ever.
yeah, no, definitely. I see some more questions in here. Just yeah, it's definitely not a one size fits all
Well, if they
situation.
want to reach
But
out, that we're the change agency. There's a T in there. I know, and I'm a marketer, and people are like, "Really, you did that?"
why did you
But
do?
so it's agent C. Change agent. I like a pun.
Yes.
So, reach out to us there. My email is lucia.folk@thechangeagency.com, or just come to our website, and, would love to talk further.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks so much. So yeah, visit the site. We'll have a little kind of overview on on CSR and some things to think about that you created for us. So that's going to be shared along with this video if you want to revisit that or share that with anyone who you think might find it of interest. So hopefully this is just one of many conversations, Lucia, but thanks everybody for joining. And yeah, we'll continue the conversation offline. So, all right. Bye everyone.
Okay, bye, Charlotte.